Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour, brought to you by AllAccessMMA.com. I'm your host, Matthew Hawkins, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Ed Carbajal. Ed, what's going on, dude?
Nothing, man. Busy week. I mean, we went from not a lot going on to everything going on in 1 week. We're doing this late just for folks listening and watching or seeing this pop up on a Friday instead of Tuesday night. We're doing this late because I was tapped into the Bellator press conference for their big announcement that they made this week. A bunch of announcements, really. And then, obviously we have UFC 258 tomorrow night, so we got to get it going over here.
Yep. So you, as you said, you were on the Bellator conference calls, the press conference, or you're covering it. Before we get to the fights that were announced, one of the big news that came out of the press conference was that Bellator was moving back to Showtime. Well, not moving back to Showtime. Bellator was moving to Showtime, much like Strikeforce did 15 years ago now. What's your opinion on the what's your opinion on the team between Bellator and Showtime?
It looks like they're super happy to be working together. So that was an immediate thing I noticed, especially with Espinosa and Coker sitting. They didn't waste any time in announcing it either. I don't know if you watched it when the stream is up on their YouTube channel. But immediately, Mauro Ranallo walks out and makes the announcement. The Showtime logo drops with all the Bellator stuff. I like the color collabs that they did, but it was immediate. It was just like you could tell it's like something that they were like, this is a long time coming. I feel like Espinosa kind of alluded to that, and I couldn't help but just get my reaction was like, I think the time is right. I mean, it was right back then with Strikeforce, but it's even more right now when you look at where the sport is, compared to where it was when Strikeforce was a thing.
Yeah, no, I agree with pretty much what you just said there. I think it's good for Bellator in a sense that it's a stable. More of a stable company, I think that's gonna. I don't know what's gonna happen to their ratings, but I think financially it'll be a hell of a move for them. And the ratings just based off the fact of how many people actually have Showtime.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, as a fan, I'm not super stoked on the idea of having another paywall to watch Bellator events. So that's disappointing, but we'll see what the production turns out to. We'll see what extra fighters they're able to bring in and how they're able to move these tournaments along. If they're able to do it in the way that kind of Strikeforce was building on, I think it could work.
Well, exactly. So that was kind of, I was trying to get it, but it's obviously too early for them to, they don't want to let all the, I guess they don't want to say everything at once. So I was trying to get an answer on I asked how deep this relationship goes. I asked Scott Coker when it was my turn to ask him questions, and I was just kind of like, I know he wants to get to like he wants to hold Pride FC level or Rising level events, and with the Viacom CBS ownership with Showtime and everything. I was trying to get them to say, like, are you going to do some events, just to at least acknowledge whether or not if down the road we're going to see some stuff on regular CBS or not. But obviously everything is new, so they have to test the waters. I would imagine if they were going to make a move like that, it's not going to be till the end, second or third or fourth quarter of the year or beginning of next year, to just depending on how it goes. They are doing I know it's a paywall, but they are trying to sweeten the pot a little with that little 6-month deal, $4.99 a month for 6 months. I think it's $10.99 normally. So for 6 months, if you sign up, you get to check out what they have to offer, and then of course, like everything, it's cancel anytime, in the small print. But I don't know, man. Though it is a paywall, but at least it's not a paywall to pay more to like watch pay-per-views and stuff. At least it's like you're just paying that. You get Showtime stuff, boxing, and and then
Yeah, no,
whatever
I mean,
movies and
I
shit
get
they
it.
have.
I get it. I get it. It's just, a lot of, that's what I mean. They have kind of a built-in subscription
Yeah.
already. So a lot of people that are into the Showtime will catch Bellator that maybe wouldn't have caught it on CBS Sports or anything like that. So it'll kind of help even out the numbers. And their numbers weren't great recently anyway. Nobody's numbers really are all that great, as we saw with the Super Bowl and everything else. The numbers show down. I think streaming has a lot, obviously, to do with that, where it's not necessarily registered in their numbers. But I mean, I think it's cool. I think it's good for Showtime. I mean, if you're Showtime and you want to stay in the combat, or you want to get back into the MMA world, then I mean, you can't really do better than the second best MMA company, the second biggest in the United States, for sure. So I think it's good for them if they're willing to put money into it and back it, and just not overtake and start trying. Let Coker do his thing. That was, let him do the matchmaking with Richard Chow and all that stuff, and don't, Espinoza handle the boxing side, and if they do a collaboration, then we can work on some matchmaking there. But it's cool. I interesting to see how it happens. I mean, we can't argue with the fights that they announced. I mean, holy crap! Talk about bringing it in a press conference. I mean, they opened it with announcing that April 2nd would be their first event back, and that would be headlined by the return of the featherweight Grand Prix and Patricio Pitbull versus Emmanuel Sanchez too. Obviously, if anybody saw their first fight, this fight's a hell of a fight. And then kind of right off of that, they announced that the light heavyweight Grand Prix. I mean, a lot of people were predicting that this was kind of coming down the way, but when you see it laid out, I mean, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
It's definitely it's funny. Corey Anderson said something interesting that day when he had his time alone with the media. He was like, someone asked him about Scott Coker's comment where he says the light heavyweight division is in Bellator is better than the UFC. And Corey Anderson made an interesting comment where he said, he's like, how can you argue against that if they're making their middleweight jump up to light heavyweight to make an interesting matchup, and here you have, it's like it's literally like I guess it's a murderer's row or just a knockout artist row of heavy hitters. I mean, Ryan Bader's a strong wrestler, but he's also, he's got his share of knockouts too. And then the gentleman that I don't want to mess up his name too bad. Yagshimuradov.
Sounds good to me, yeah.
The Russian fellow that he's fighting first in his first fight in that tournament. He's the former light heavyweight champ over at ACA.
Yep.
So it's literally like talk about using the title, because I know they call all their Grand Prix World Grand Prix, and these guys are from all over the world. But I mean, between Nemkov and this guy, I mean, you really got like a heavy, like, global light heavyweight competition in this thing.
And you have Ryan Bader, who's still their heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah. I mean, as far as which light heavyweight division is better, that kind of just depends on the matchup. I mean, if we're being completely honest, like Leona Machida is probably not anywhere near the top 10 in the UFC. I mean, maybe top 20, but there's a couple guys, but that he's really the only one. Everybody else here is pretty much still pretty top contender-ish when, we'll see how Romero does at 205. So basically they announced then April 9th, we would get the first round. That was Ryan Bader versus Leona Machida 2. Machida knocked out Bader years and years ago. I believe it was in LA, actually. If I'm looking at that fight, I got to lean Ryan Bader in 2021, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they also announced.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, I mean, maybe, I don't know. I do. I think Bader, especially coming off a loss, I think Bader's going to feel like he's going to go into kind of protection mode and maybe start working takedowns. And
that was one of the things that he kind of said, like, more than a few times, was like, he's not trying to, like, if he doesn't do well in this thing, then he's just going to stick to to heavyweight, but he was kind of like, he liked being the double champ, big man. You know what I mean at Bellator. So he obviously wants to get that one back, in that division. But I mean, I feel like there's probably a different hunger, and facing him again this time. But the other thing too is like it's weird to say that Machida is the probably the weak link in this chain of light heavyweights, but you know, he's kind of like jumping around weight, so like you're wondering where he really wants to stick to.
Well, I mean, if anybody in this group was out of their prime the most, it would be Machida. That's basically what I mean. We're talking he was world champion quite a long time ago now. So as far as that goes, I mean, Romero's obviously up there in age, but he's still considered by anybody with a brain basically a top 5 middleweight in the world, and he's now obviously coming up to light heavyweight. So then Corey Anderson against the before mentioned Russian ACA champ, and then on April 16th, Nemkov Davis for the light heavyweight title. As all these tournament fights will be 5-round bouts. And then they gave the fight that they made the fight that the fans were really asking for, Rumble and Romero. So I think that making that fight will help a lot of fans cross over too.
Oh yeah,
that'll be a quick to pull some UFC eyes to Bellator to see the familiar face there.
That was funny because when when they asked about the matchmaking, I mean, Coker was even like, "Well, how do you not make that fight right away? You have them both. You don't know what's going to happen. You might if they're both there and they're ready, might as well make it happen." And I mean, how many headlines did we see? I mean, about this tournament that just had their two names in it. So it's definitely going to be the one, like you said. I mean, if you're going to sign up for it, make sure you do it on what is it, the 9th or the 16th? I forget what day they're fighting.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, ideally, the move would be to sign up there on the 2nd and start with the first Bellator show. The other thing about that you mentioned is I noticed because you had sent me the link for that discount, is there's also a 30-day free trial. So it's really 7 months because you get the first 30 days free, and then it kicks on for 6 months after that.
Oh yeah,
so,
not bad.
They
should throw us. I should have put the link in here. They should throw us an affiliate joint or whatever.
I'll take it if they want to give us one. But and then they also mentioned that then following that would be in Macy. Well, getting back to the light heavyweight tournament, at first glance, who's your pick to win it all?
To win it all.
Assuming no injuries, everybody stays healthy, fights up to their potential. Who wins that tournament?
Wow, that's you know what? I hadn't even looked at it like that yet until you just asked me. Just because there's so many, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Corey Anderson he seems like the guy that everyone seems to be counting out. So like if he's outside, I know we just talked about Machida, but if there's another underdog, I would feel like people are probably trying to count him out. I know Aaron Brunstetter from TSM put up the odds from Bet Online AG, and I forgot who was the heavy favorite. I should look that up. But I mean, you're asking me what I think. I mean, honestly, not for nothing, Nemkov seems like I don't think he's gonna be letting go of that belt. Definitely not in the first few fights he's gonna get. But you don't know with MMA, man. MMA is so unpredictable.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why I kind of preface with assuming that everything kind of goes to plan and we just get the best versus the best at every fight. I got to go Nemkov, and I do it because of matchup wise. It's kind of like I think versus Phil Davis. I think I think he wins that fight. I don't think Davis really has a way of beating him. I think Davis is obviously durable enough to stretch it out, but I still think Nemkov's a better fighter. And then a fight with Romero is interesting. I think he beats Rumble with wrestling, with his takedown and his sambo. Romero would makes it a hell of a contest. The other side of the bracket, I don't know a whole lot about the Russian, so that he could be a wild card, obviously. And as you said, Corey Anderson. But I see Bader coming out of that. I think we get Nemkov Bader too, basically in the finals. And I think Nemkov wins and kind of establishes himself. As I had mentioned, I think when we had Hunter Homosek on, when they started signing all these guys,
Mhm.
Nemkov's kind of the dark horse here, who could benefit the most by having the Corey Andersons and the Rumbles and the Romeros here, because now he's got legitimate dudes. I mean, if he beats Davis,
Yeah.
Rumble, and Bader in 3 fights in a row, coming off of what he did to Bader and what he did to McGeary and all the and the other guys before, then he starts to become a big money player in the
Mhm.
MMA world. So great tournament. As far as the other fights, just initially, obviously Pitbull, I lean his way. Um, like I said, May 7th, they announced Archuleta Pettis. Another good fight. I think most of us kind of were thinking Archuleta,
Yeah.
something in Ryzen, but that obviously
Well, he wanted that. Yeah, he
he
wanted
wanted
that.
that, but
Yeah.
I think even Japan's still on hold right now. I think they jumped
Yeah.
the gun as far as thinking that they were going to pull a big tournament off or a big event off in like March, and then I think everything just got kind of close, and the
Yeah.
world
I
hasn't
mean,
quite caught up with that yet.
that came up actually, and some Coker said that like especially with Horiguchi back, he said they definitely they're having conversations, but obviously with what's going on in the world, you can't really make any moves like that right now. So
And this fight makes sense. I mean, it was
yeah,
just Sergio Pettis Archuleta was going to happen eventually.
yeah.
Whether it happens now or in 6 months from now, let's get it out of the
So
way. It's easy to make happen.
what was interesting about that? So both Pettis and Archuleta were there, but they didn't feature them as much in the announcement, and they didn't send them to the media that we were doing, because Morning Combat guys got them, Luke Thomas and whatever his name is, that other dude, and he kind of like so they interviewed Archuleta, and Archuleta actually said when the title was vacant, he thought that him and Pettis were going to go at it back then to fight for the title. So it's like a fight that he's always wanted in the back of his mind, and he seems super excited for it. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I I like him in that fight too. I got him picked to keep that belt.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's his time, and I think that'll be yeah. I agree with you there. I think Archuleta beats Pettis
Mhm.
again in 2021. Um, so we were going to get to UFC 258. One thing we didn't really talk about, we were going to go over, but I just flew through my head, is obviously we had Knucklemania last Friday as well.
Wow.
And not to go through the thing, but just for the fans that maybe didn't get a chance to catch the fight or watch the news on it, Britton Hart pulled the upset off, beat Paige Van Zant in an interesting fight. Overall, the card was typical BKFC card. Probably the biggest note to come out that evening was Chris Lieben picking up a massive knockout in his retirement bout. Were you able to catch any of the fights, or you catch a couple of the prelims, Ed?
I just watched the prelims, and I mean, I did want to see the. I mean, I'm glad Lieben was able to walk away with the win. I wasn't surprised that Van Zant lost her debut. Not to knock her, but I just feel like, I think I said it when we were talking about it on the show here. I just felt like the experience being in that environment was going to be in Hart's favor, and it looked like that was the case, especially in that final round from what the footage I saw, because Van Zandt didn't really seem to turn it on until the final round. She didn't look like she got hurt too bad, but I mean, I know people are already talking about her trying other things, like she didn't want to be there, but I mean, her social media seems to say otherwise. And hey, now that she got one in, she got to feel a whole cycle of BKFC. Maybe we'll get a different Paige Van Zandt, or a better version of a bare knuckle Paige Van Zandt in the next event.
I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I
Mhm.
picked against her. I didn't think she'd win. I thought Britton Hart would beat her, with a lot to do with just experience.
Yeah.
We had Chris Lido, we've had Joey Beltran, and then I've attended events, so I've seen it at least up close. It's a different animal. I believe that you can't just jump into it. Short of being a seasoned boxer, um, or really experienced like a Chris Lieben,
Mhm.
who's experienced in just kind of any kind of just hectic combat. I think you need some experience. So I fully think that she's way too competitive to walk away with the way that fight lost.
Yeah.
Had she been just, destroyed, um, like the girls in the earlier bout in the evening, I could see her walking away just because that's life changing, beat down. But as far as her competitive, I think she comes back. I think she's way more aggressive in her second time. I think she gets cut up more in her second bout, but I think she is able to beat whoever they put in front of her. Plus, BKFC right now has no pressure, and they can really just give her any no disrespect, but any quote unquote tomato can they want to help build her back up and help with their confidence, and then just help with their investment as far as their investment in her. So that was their next event scheduled for March 19th, headlined by Leonard Garcia, and then April 16th is BKFC 17 in Miami. And right now that's the big boys, Joey Beltran versus Sam Shoemaker. So we'll talk more about those fights when they come around. But that brings us to this weekend, Ed. Big UFC 258, the return to the UFC pay-per-view. It's going to be an interesting night of fights. Not the best fight card, especially coming off of a nice fight night we had this past weekend.
I mean, I think it's
all right.
Bad at
it's
all.
all right. I don't think anybody's.
Yeah,
you're not running to spend 70 bones on it though.
Oh well, that's a price. That's a price issue. I don't think it's a quality issue. As far as the quality of fighters on the card, I like a lot of these fights actually. I mean, I know we're going to talk about the main card, but just really quick, I'm surprised that he's on here, but like Keller and Ricky Simone's on the UFC Fight Pass prelims, which I really like. That's a fight that I have my eye on. And then Miranda Maverick, who comes from Invicta, fighting Julian Robinson on the first bout of the night. And then you got Bilal Muhammad, who's a fan favorite against the Bellator champ's brother.
I like that. I do like that fight. I think Bilal Muhammad should be getting higher. No disrespect to Diego Lima, because he's going to make that a really good fight. But
yeah,
at 17-3, I think Bilal should be. I think for a while now he should have been getting a little bit stiffer competition, or at least higher ranked competition, not necessarily stiffer competition.
And then you got this battle crazy woman, Mallory Martin, fighting Leona Viana. And I mean that as a compliment, because she obviously loves what she does. There's quite a few. And then obviously the main card, I know we were talking before we started recording. I mean, this fight hopefully still happens, the first fight in the main card. Report came out that Bobby Green collapsed after weigh-ins, but we haven't seen any updates from the UFC as far as if the fight is off or on, or there's a shakeup happening. But me, I'm always a fan of Jim Miller. But I think it's actually a pretty good card for it's maybe not good for the people they're pitching their market to now, but definitely for us.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's good fights, but again, I mean, I don't know. For me, a pay-per-view shouldn't be co-headlined by Macy, Barber, Alexa Grosso. As much as I like both of those women and look forward to that fight, actually, to me, that's not.
Yeah, I mean, that's
be at right now.
That's what's missing. Placement.
If that was Overeem Volkov, or if that was even Sandhagen Frankie Edgar, not knowing the results and how those fights actually went down, then I mean that's different. Last weekend was a pretty damn good fight. I would be more likely to pay for last weekend's card, honestly, than this one if I was going to shell out the dough. But that's no disrespect to the fighters that are fighting. There's good fights. It's fight nightish to me with a good headliner, a legit headlining fight.
Maybe if they shifted some of these guys up, like you said. But I mean, it's an interesting fight though, because I think this is Macy's first fight back after her knee getting over her knee injury, right?
Correct. Yeah, she fought last January on UFC 246. She lost to Roxanne Modafferi, and really one of the upsets of the year. No. I mean, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I actually look forward to this fight.
You got to change your delivery.
Yeah, but there's a difference between it being a pay-per-view and a good fight. To me, that's not. I don't know. We know where we're at with the UFC. The co-main event, there should be one more big fight on this card, and I don't really think anybody would disagree with me that there should be.
We're looking at this Friday night, the night before, with the news of Bobby Green, so this could very well change.
Correct, but it's not going to. It's not going to change for the better, though.
Especially in the matchmaking in the days of COVID-19, the cards could change literally right up until first bell.
So, anyways, well, let's jump to the fights because we will be watching them. The first fight of the night, as you know, let's assume that the Jim Miller Bobby Green fight's going down. We know Bobby Green, in theory, collapsed backstage. We don't know what the reason for that was. Still no news on Twitter, but it kind of started breaking about 3 hours ago. Either way, I was leading Jim Miller in this fight. Bobby Green's great, but I was thinking Jim Miller would just figure out a
It's
way.
off.
It's canceled now?
Yeah,
okay.
ESPN just reported.
Okay, well, there it is. Breaking news. That fight's off. So maybe, looking at the card
Ricky
right.
Simone, Brian Kelleher is going to move on to the main card now.
Okay.
That's good for them because they were on the prelims, the Fight Pass prelims. So that fills that spot. So let's bring that up since we're doing it. Ricky Simone versus Brian Kelleher. That sucks.
Yeah. So Simone Keller is a good fight still. I would have put Diego Lima and Muhammad just because I think Muhammad deserves it. And Lima's familiar, at least also through the Ultimate Fighter. But with that said, Ricky Simone did headline an event against Uriah Faber, so he does have a little bit of name value to add to a pay-per-view. I'll take Ricky Simone in this fight. I think it's going to be a good back and forth, but I think he'll use kind of his wrestling and just be able to grind something out and pull out a decision. I don't think there'll be a finish. Both dudes are way too tough.
Yeah, they definitely are. I mean, again, I'm with you. I like all those ATT Portland fighters, so I'm definitely with Ricky Simone. I think he cut his hair since. Yeah, but I'm all for that fight. So then I guess that the rest of the card is still the same, which leaves us with this one.
Julian Marquez versus Maki Pitolo. Marquez has been out for first fight in like 2.5 years. Not necessarily for any reason other than a lot of bad luck, especially lately. A lot of canceled fights. Pitolo coming off a couple tough losses. I think I'll take Marquez in this fight as a returning fighter and somebody who, following him on Instagram and stuff, hungry to get back into the cage, especially having the disappointment of some late last-minute cancellations due to opponents having issues.
Yeah, no, I'm actually going to disagree with you. I like Maki Pitolo here, former VFC champ. Followed his career from fighting in the squared cage from back in the day. So I know he's got some thunder in those fists. That's why they don't call him coconut bombs, because he's from Hawaii. I mean, they kind of do, but
yeah, that's probably the reason why.
Yeah. But the bomb part is probably because of his power.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right, then that brings up some names here. We got Kelvin Gastelum. What rank? I get such small. Well, they have number. They have
him at number 9.
Number 9.
Yeah.
Versus Ian Heinisch. What do you got him at 13 or 15?
15.
It's so small. I can't read it. Yeah. I'm going Gastelum in this fight. I think he catches his opponent, knocks him out, TKO win early third round. I think Gastelum's kind of an underrated fighter. He obviously had the war with Adesanya.
Yeah.
But I think he's kind of forgotten. Some of his losses have been real close decisions. And I think he's truly a world-class fighter. So I expect him to pick up the win in this fight.
I agree with you. I just feel like that fight with Adesanya might have taken a lot out of him. So maybe he just needed some time to get back to the guy that we know him as. And I feel like he might, I don't know how long it's been since he last fought, but I think he might be right where he needs to be to start picking up some W's again.
Yeah, I mean, he's on a 3-fight losing streak, but it's to Adesanya, Till, and then Hermanson. He lost that heel hook from Hermanson quick in his last fight.
Yeah, which those you got to tap to, or otherwise your career is going to be.
Yeah, and honestly, we don't see a lot of people even attack that these days very much. No. So it's kind of one where he got caught, had no choice, like you said, to give up or basically end his career. We'll see. I mean, 4 losses in a row is not a good thing to have in the UFC. So you got to believe he's taking this fight super seriously if he plans to continue, that charge. But talent-wise, I see no reason why he shouldn't be able to win this fight.
Yeah, no, we're both in agreement there. And then we have the one we were just talking about, Macy Barber versus Alexa Grosso.
I like the fight. Probably one of my top 2 or 3 fights in the whole card. I just wish that there was one more mega fight in this position on the order of the bouts. With that said, Grosso's kind of been, she's on the rise up, but has never. What are you over there laughing about, Ed?
Something else unrelated to this.
Yeah, with that, so Grosso, kind of has been off and on early, but she's on the rise up. Barber obviously had that goal of becoming the youngest champion in UFC history. She still has time to do it, but it's creeping in quickly here. Has to be done basically within the next year.
Mm-hmm.
I think Barber wins this fight, assuming her knee wasn't totally shredded. And that's come back. If she's able to come back even at like 95% of what her potential was before,
Yeah.
I think she's able to use her wrestling and win this fight. If she decides to turn it into some kind of K1 bout, I think she'll find herself in big trouble.
Yeah, I honestly, I'm only picking Grosso because I know this is Barber's first one back, and I know she's game and everything. Like, I mean, she fought through that injury when it happened. You know what I mean? Like, I know she's not like a pushover. I just know, but I also know coming off an injury like that, when she's in the cage and it shuts again, I feel like she kind of like the Van Zandt, like she kind of needs to go through a whole cycle of a fight first. I mean, if she picks up a win, good for her. I hope I'm wrong. Especially I always kind of sympathize with fighters coming off of injuries, but I can't help but not see her losing like a decision or something just because of her favoring the knee, or maybe her mobility won't feel the same, once she's in a live fight. That's just me speculating. I have no real other reason than that, but I'm picking Grosso just for that reason.
I think it's gonna be a heck of a fight. A lot of potential there. If Barber's not able to get takedowns and it just becomes a stand-up fight, could be a lot of fireworks. Brings us to the main event that seems like it's been a year in the making, but really it's been 6 months, 7 months.
Yeah.
Kamaru Usman, the undisputed welterweight champion of the world, faces Gilbert Burns, the true number 1 contender at welterweight.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you go first here. I imagine I kind of know how you want to be leaning, but curious to see how you go.
No, you're right. I mean, I'm going with homeboy Durinho, Gilbert Burns, just because I mean, he's usually nice to me in the most of the time in the past and stuff, and he's a jiu-jitsu guy, and I know he's before he started getting ranked as high as he is in his division, he's always competing in something, so he's definitely dangerous. But I'm not going to be surprised if I put it like this: I don't see a finish happening here. Maybe if it goes to the ground, that favors Burns more. But I've seen enough of Usman to know that he's dangerous everywhere. He's a champ for a reason, and I'm concerned for Burns because of the reach advantage that Usman has. So, I mean, Usman's helped him. The thing about it is that they're training partners or former training partners, so they know each other really well. And I mean, I know you haven't trained as long as I have, but when you go against somebody that you just know is, outside of the vacuum of their gym where they trained over at Sanford MMA, like no, there's people that know who's going to win this fight for sure, especially the two of them. I think Daniel Cormier kind of alluded to this when he was talking about this fight earlier in the week with the show he does with Helwani, and it's like this is for everyone outside of their small circle. Like, a lot of people probably know that who's going to win this fight. And I mean, training with someone, as long as they train together, one person knows what the other is bringing. And this is just business, like they have to go there. Anything could happen. They separated to train separately for it. I saw Burns is going to have Wagner Rocha and Vicente Luque in his corner, which is, a pretty solid corner. But I mean, Usman is still, I mean, people don't give him the credit either. I mean, the guy the guy got to the title with a issue with his leg and didn't get it fixed until he became champion, and then still defended the belt. So I'm just kind of like, or his foot or whatever it was. I forget what the injury was, but I mean, and then I just saw some wrestling footage of him from when he was younger, just manhandling dudes. And I'm, a 6-foot guy versus a 5'10" Gilbert Burns. That makes me concerned for Burns. I've gone against bigger dudes, even that are not as technically sound, but the size definitely does matter. I mean, forget what the old school traditional martial arts bullshit used to say. It makes a difference. So, I mean, again, Burns is my pick, but I mean, this is going to a decision. I don't see a finish coming here.
I'm actually going to pick Usman to win by finish. But I think I don't know. So let's see if you agree with me here. I don't see Burns taking down Usman. I believe Usman could probably take down Burns if he wanted to, partially because Burns maybe won't fight it off as much and might be interested to see how it goes down at the ground. So right off the bat, like, I think Usman kind of controls where the fight takes place in a sense. That puts us on their feet. I see it kind of unfolding a lot like the Covington fight. I think both dudes have heavy hands. And I think Usman obviously has a great gas tank, as shown by how he's able to grind people out, and then the way like how he finished Covington, in the 5th round of their fight. I just see it kind of unfolding the same way. I think you're going to end up in a stand-up, some cage fighting, some dirty boxing. I think Burns will tire a bit, especially getting into the championship rounds. I know he keeps active in a lot of these other tournaments, but and submissions and even his MMA. But 25 minutes is a heck of a fight. I mean, he finished Woodley quick, so he's finished a lot of his opponents quicker and hasn't necessarily. And to my knowledge, I don't think he's ever fought MMA 25 rounds. At least certainly not in the UFC. I see him getting tired. I see Usman just catching him with something. And I think it's going to be a back and forth fight, but I lean Usman late 4th, early 5th, just catching him, putting him down and getting a stoppage. Maybe not even a beatdown stoppage, but more of just kind of an exhaustion. They've been fighting. Dude just finally went down, and the fight's waved off. So that's what I'm leaning towards. That's what my brain's telling me, not what my heart wants. I'd love to see Gilbert Burns pull the upset off. He is a 3-1 dog. And I think rightfully so. I think Usman's earned that spot, at least especially among the hardcore fans who really understand what they're seeing in these guys. Certainly not my complete cup of tea as far as some of the technique he uses and some of the style of fighting he uses. But you certainly can't, when he's on and he's free to, not trying to hold back and not just trying to foot stomp and grind somebody out. His skill wise and with his technique and his fight IQ is on par with anybody we've ever seen, as far as just rankings of everything being combined into one person, especially because I don't think he excels necessarily at one thing. Like, you wouldn't say he's a better wrestler than like Khabib pound for pound, and he's certainly not a better striker than like Adesanya pound for pound, but he has in a video game, he's got all those attributes pretty damn, he's in the 9s and all the attributes, maybe not with a 10. So I lean towards that. But I think it's going to be a heck of a fight.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to just tell people not to pay for the pay-per-view, because I think it's a good fight. I just, we've talked about this in the past. $70 is a lot to pay for any kind of television viewing, in my opinion. But, good fight. Like you said, the teammates thing's interesting. You got to believe, though, like, part of me believes that if that's the case, then like these people are leaning towards Usman, because otherwise the odds wouldn't be, what I mean? Something would leak and they would, 3-1 odds is pretty good. If you really knew that Burns was going to win this fight and his close circle knew that, somebody's going to make a hell of a lot of money on this if he's the one that, they're leaning towards, in the sense that like Cormier was talking about. But,
yeah, I mean, again, they split to do their training for this way back when it was supposed to happen. You might be right. I know when it got pushed back was because of Burns' positive COVID test, which he did talk about some of the after effects, like the symptoms that he felt, and we all know that it affects the lungs. So, I mean, if all that stuff they say about the long-term effects is true, then maybe his his cardio could suffer. But hey, well, that's the whole point of why we got to see what happens. I mean, I want to see what happens just because it's been following his career, watching him come up. I mean, and watching him go, he's been a great guy, to just interact with on social and stuff. I mean, giving people his tatami discount codes and stuff for guys that train jiu-jitsu. So it's hard not to root for him. But I like Usman too, but again, I don't see I hope Burns can pull off a decision win. So I mean, put it like this. I mean, like you just said, the odds man, I'm gonna put money on him. I'll find some kind of parlay in the whole card to put money on before the first bell tomorrow. But yeah, man, I mean, I'll be super happy if he wins, especially with him being the underdog. But hey, that's the whole thing about this sport, man. Like we said, it's super unpredictable. I feel like, I don't know, maybe like by Monday, Tuesday, I felt like the card was kind of like folks weren't as excited about it up until midweek. I don't know if you caught that vibe, but I did. And I mean, not for nothing. I actually was like, oh my God, Burns is fighting this weekend. Like somebody my mom actually reminded me, and I was like, oh wow. Yeah. I was like, okay. Cause it was Valentine's Day weekend and some shit like that. So I was just like, plus with the snow up here, I've been losing my fucking mind anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, I think coming off, like I said, last week we didn't get into it, but last weekend was a pretty big event, name-wise. So I think there's been a lot of chatter about that. Real quick results, obviously, Alexander Volkov finished Overeem early in their fight, picked up the win, moves way up to heavyweight. And then obviously we didn't want to talk about it too much because it hits home with you, but Frankie Edgar took a devastating flying knee knockout loss at the hands of Corey Sandhagen. So I think that kind of bled over a couple extra days. And like you said, kind of led to maybe the lack of chatter, but I did see Dana White on ESPN today. Before we sign off, are you as tired as I am about Dana White talking about Khabib?
Matt, it's almost like he's trying to date a girl that wants nothing to do with him. Like fuck off already about it. Like seriously, like just because you see a twinkle in his eye, whatever you think it is. I mean, listen, the guy knows the business. He always says we don't know shit about it, and he's right. We don't know shit about the business because he's sitting there making millions of dollars putting fights, and we're here doing this out of our fucking cubby holes or whatever. But listen, I mean, the guy can't say enough. To me, the guy can't say enough. I'm done. I don't want to fight. I mean, watching him coach his cousin or whatever it was a couple of events ago, I saw the coaching cap on full. You know what I mean? And I mean, he keeps on saying to other media outlets like, "I'm done. I'm done. I'm done." Like, how many times how many dinners are you going to buy the guy? You know what I mean? Like seriously, it's like, dude. Like Khabib's got to just tell him, like, listen, dude, that's it. You got it all out of me that you can. He doesn't need the money. You're not going to get him with money because he doesn't need it. You know what I mean? I mean, like, who's going to impress him the way that he wants to be impressed? I mean, the only thing out there, if I was Khabib, I would say, you know what? Let me fight Michael Chandler because he's the only guy out there that's interesting to me. You know what I mean? Like, he's beat Poirier, he's beat Gaethje. The Ferguson is not going to happen now because of the loss he took to Oliveira. So it's just like, you know what I mean? Like if anything entices him, I would say that fight, not Conor.
No, I think it's Chandler Oliveira. They're the only two possibilities. And honestly, and Oliveira just doesn't have the name value as much. Chandler's got the new hype. I mean, that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, I agree with all that. And what I don't understand is, like, Danny keeps saying, "Oh, I believe he's still hungry." Well, take the belt then. If he's truly still hungry, though, he's going to get pissed off that you took his belt away.
He's already said they need to move on.
I know, but
he's actually said make Poirier the champion.
I know, but that's the thing. Like, if obviously he's not that hungry if he's willing just to give up his belt. If the dude is got such an ego that he needs to be the number one person in the world, then he's not going to want to give his belt up. But that's basically what Dana White's insinuating, is that the guy's gonna have to keep coming back. And he clearly said he doesn't want to. Do I think he might fight again in like 3 years? Maybe if there's a new like star that rises, maybe Chandler goes on a 2-year,
Maybe that GSP
reign.
fight
Maybe
happens.
maybe
Yeah.
that happens. Maybe somebody comes up from lightweight. Maybe somebody drops down from, or, I'm sorry, somebody comes up from featherweight, or somebody drops down from welterweight. I mean, there's a lot of things, but yeah, it's just gotten old, and it's like, let's just get the fight. I mean, I don't want to, and we'll get more into it when it comes up. But yeah, I thought that was weird. He keeps talking about, it is weird. It is weird because you usually don't. It's I would think he would.
What is this? The second or third dinner they're having in Vegas that he's supposed to try to convince him? Like, come on, dude, you're not going to get him. There ain't enough In-N-Out or burgers in the world to convince that man to come, because I know he likes hamburgers. You know what I mean? Like you're not gonna. I'm pretty sure Khabib's probably gonna have to like hold his hands and look in his eyes and say, Dana, listen, I appreciate it, dude, appreciate it, but it's not happening. I like doing what I'm doing.
At this point, he might just try to troll him and see how long he's willing to keep his belt. Just
Fernando, my old editor from MMA News, that he's at Fight Sports now. He actually said maybe this is Khabib's scheme just to keep getting dinners in Vegas out of Dana, see how long he can do it for.
That's what I mean. Just troll it, get free meals, keep telling him maybe, and just see, I mean, because it's pretty. I don't understand, especially coming off the Poirier win. Why not strike while it's hot? It seems like the UFC has dropped the ball. I mean, look at Masvidal. Like he said since the day he knocked out Askren was what, my God, almost 2 years ago now. And all we got out of that was, we had the BMF fight after that, and then that was November of that year.
The short notice Usman
and then the short Usman fight, and that's all we've had in like a year and a half. A little over a year. It's like, I don't know. It just seems like they just I don't understand. Poirier was hot. He was hot a couple weeks ago. Why not start at that point? Announce your next title fight. Go ahead. We're doing Poirier versus Gaethje. Whoever, it could have been anybody,
because they're going to do Poirier Conor 3.
I know, yeah. But I don't. But if that's the case, then just announce it for the title. Why allow Khabib? Why keep telling people? Because to me, what Dana's telling people is our next champion's not the real champion. Our next champion's the dude that I chased down to make, because I didn't want him to leave so bad, because I knew he was the best fighter in the world.
He keeps saying he's the champion. He's still the champion. So
yeah,
even though.
Yeah,
he's pretty much said no.
I mean, to me, he's downplaying his own roster. He should say, "Hey, Khabib retired, a great champion. We're moving on. We have the next generation, and here it is. We're gonna do Gaethje. I don't care who they did, Ferguson, Poirier. I mean, make any damn fight you want, but of combination of any of those 9 guys that he talks about. But why downgrade those guys by insinuating? Because it happened it happened in a sense with GSP. They're going to be considered a paper champion. Whoever wins next is going to be a paper champion until they're able to, shed that and defend it, a handful of times and maybe either draw Khabib back or just get enough accolades and enough of a resume that they can go head to head with him in any kind of way. So I don't know. I just think it's weird. At a time when Bellator is kind of trying to get fresh and do these tournaments and just be kind of a bright shiny thing right now, whether it turns out or not. UFC just kind of stale. Like let's do something creative here. Like the UFC has had so many opportunities to do these things creative. Whether it's lightweight or welterweight or any of these, and they just featherweight, bantamweight. I mean, all these divisions. We had the open. We had when 125 became open again. What did we get? We got Figueiredo, Benavidez twice in a row. Mm-hmm. Like we couldn't get a more creative way to make that work out. I mean, in a sense, like you would, although Figueiredo might be the best 125er in the world, like he would have disqualified himself in a way. He missed weight. And really, so it's just weird. Like you could have had a little tournament there. You could have had a tournament here and there. And I don't, I posted on Twitter today, or somebody had posted something about, well, why don't I just do a tournament then? Because Dana White earlier today said,
we talked about that in the whole podcast episode.
And I commented, well, the difference is in Dana White's tournament, some fighters get double elimination. And that's just the truth. it would be like if Scott Coker he puts the brackets out, Bader loses in round 1, and he comes out and goes, no, Bader advances. That's what Dana White can do this way, because Conor can lose a fight and then get a title fight. That obviously doesn't happen in a tournament. Chandler maybe loses his next fight and then he gets a number 1 contender fight and then gets the title fight. That doesn't happen in a tournament. So I think that's the difference. Obviously, he can play favoritism. That's why he won't do the brackets. That's why he doesn't want to have a tournament format, because he wants to be able to manipulate it at any stage of the point if he wants. Because if, God forbid, he ended up with an Oliveira versus Beneil Dariush world title fight instead of Conor McGregor versus, Justin Gaethje, then he's not making as much money, so that's not the fight he wants to have. I mean, that's really, I think, the truth about it. But anyways, UFC 258 this Saturday, pay-per-view. Ed's probably going to try to find a bar since his crazy-ass state
maybe
might let it happen now. But I think that wraps us up for the week. Fans can, as I stated earlier, check us out at allaccessmma.com for our video podcast and their MMA news and articles. Follow me, Matthew Hawkins, at MMAHawk21 on Twitter and Instagram. Follow Ed at Carbazol on Twitter, Carbeerzol on Instagram, and Old Head Carb on Twitch.
Enjoy
have a good rest.
Fights.
Yeah, have a good weekend and President's Day weekend, Ed. Talk to you.
Peace.